Wireless LAN Weekly, Episode 36, Wireless Penetration Testing.
Welcome to Wireless LAN Weekly, a podcast focused on the wireless networking professional. We aim to educate, inform, entertain, and inspire. Get ready to listen and enjoy. Now to our host of the show, Keith Parsons.
Well, welcome back to Wireless LAN Weekly, Episode 36. And today we'll be talking about wireless LAN penetration testing. We've brought on board Mark Wuergler. Mark's a security consultant. I used to work with Mark years ago. He worked for me on a project that we did, and he's moved on and done quite well for himself. And today he's going to talk to us about a product they have called SILICA-U that does automatic wireless penetration testing. And now on with the show.
Interesting facts, little-known tidbits, things you might not have known, short little bits to set your mind a-reeling.
Have you ever been trying to figure out how many client calls on a voice over Wi-Fi system are going to happen depending on how many handsets you have? Well, the telephone folks from years ago figured out a technique called Erlang, E-R-L-A-N-G, to help calculate the number of trunk lines you'd need into a facility depending on how many users there are. If you had a 200-unit apartment complex, well, how many trunk lines do you need to have from the CO to the apartment complex? All 200 people aren't going to be on the phone at the same time. So there's a calculation to figure that out. Another way to think about it is, how big of a pipe do you need for each one of those apartment units for water pressure? Well, maybe a half-inch or a three-quarter-inch pipe per room will be fine, but you don't take 200 times a half-inch and put in a 100-inch pipe for the water. We share things, and other than on Super Bowl Sunday during halftime, when everyone flushes at the same time, we usually don't use all the water pressure simultaneously. And with telephone calls, other than Mother's Day, when everyone wants to call at the same time, we don't use the phone lines at the same time. When you have voice over IP handsets, they all don't call at the same time. So if your vendor is telling you, we can only support 5 or 7 simultaneous calls, well, do some research into the Erlang function and see if you can figure out how many handsets that actually means in your environment.
Things every wireless LAN professional needs to know. Gear up, buckle down, and stand by for the real techie stuff.
Welcome back to Wireless LAN Weekly. My name's Keith Parsons, and I'll be your host today. And today we've got with us a security consultant and developer of a product called SILICA-U. The company is named Immunity Inc., and they're out of Miami Beach, Florida. And our person we have online with us today is named Mark Wuergler. Years ago, I used to produce and teach a class called Wireless LAN Security Assessment Toolkit. Big, long name for a wireless hacking class. And Mark worked with us a lot on building the scripts and the Linux side so we could have some automated pen testing tools. Well, he's come a long way since then, and now he develops and works with a product called SILICA-U, which, again, is an automated wireless pen testing tool. So rather than me talk about it, Mark, how you doing?
I'm doing all right, thanks.
And so we got you here. Tell us all about this SILICA-U tool and how it works and why people would want to use it in their networks.
Okay. Well, as far as a little bit of history, Silica started out as a little embedded device on a little Nokia N800. You remember that. You were one of the first to actually purchase it. SILICA-U is now on a live USB. Any machine that supports USB and PCMCIA or PCI Express can actually run this utility. It's Immunity's wireless assessment toolkit. The basic idea behind this particular assessment tool is that it will locate wireless networks that are in your area and determine what type of encryption is on these particular access points. And then with a click of a button, you can choose to unlock or discover the key for these networks. We make it very simple. The user interface is incredibly simple. It doesn't take a whole lot of knowledge to actually of wireless networks to actually assess these networks. So it's pretty much we're targeting anyone that is interested in assessing the security of their wireless networks.
And now, why would someone want to do that? I mean, on the good side.
Well, on the good side, you want to know like how vulnerable you are. In the news, you're always hearing about these corporations, these large companies that are getting breached because their security, their wireless security, is not as tight as their security on their wired LAN. And wireless can be considered the weakest link in a lot of security architecture. Security, the way that these companies are actually deploying their networks. So, in some situations, you can say that a wireless network is the same as putting a network jack out in the parking lot of your business. If you can gain access to a wireless access point inside the network, then it's the same as being actually physically connected to the network. So if I can be in a neighboring building, a neighboring home, a neighboring business, and be within reach of your wireless network, and I get access to that, then that's free reign on your network.
So people who do wireless pen testing buy your product, or do you sell it directly to the corporations who want to do their own internal testing?
The majority of our clients are pen testers and companies that are interested in knowing how secure their networks actually are. As a pen tester, this is a valuable tool because you basically set it up. It'll get the keys you need to do. In some situations, you can set it up. You can be doing other things while SILICA-U is attempting to gain access to the wireless network. It takes a lot of the difficulty out of wireless assessments. There's so many moving parts. There's so many variables involved in a wireless penetration test, and with a tool like SILICA-U, it takes all the difficulties out. All the hard work is happening in the background. Basically you click a button and SILICA-U will dynamically, do everything else. And as a pen tester, that's a pretty valuable tool to have. Wireless.
I have a copy in front of me, and I am amazed at how simple it is. It has a button like start. Compared to what we did years ago, and if you might want to talk to us about this, a lot of us, used air snort and air crack and other utilities on a Linux box where you'd have to get in the box and basically understand the CLI to type in specific commands, turning on off cards. How did you make SILICA-U so automated? It's amazingly simple.
One of the things that any wireless penetration tester knows is any of those tools that are out there. There's a lot of things that goes on at once. In order to successfully perform a wireless penetration, a wireless attack, there's a lot of things that go on at once. And if you remember, back in the day when we were teaching this class, there were a lot of we basically wrote a script to make this as easy as possible. SILICA-U takes these ideas on everything that's necessary and has all these separate threads in the background. If for example, I guess I'm getting a little too technical, but the idea in attacking a WEP network, for example, you need to successfully capture an encrypted ARP packet to replay in the network. Or you can, of course, passively listen for unique initialization vectors. But there's also the generating that type of traffic or forcing a client to generate that kind of traffic. Those are all things that you'd have to take in consideration. And, of course, on command line tools, you'd have to know about these things and run a separate process in the background to force a deauthentication or spoof a deauthentication frame from the access point to get a client to disconnect and reconnect and hopefully generate another ARP, for example. We do all those things in the background so the user doesn't even have to think about it. And that's the whole idea is SILICA-U. We want to make it as simple as possible so that the user doesn't have to think about all those variables. And of course, there are a few things that they need to be aware of, like the lack of traffic. The lack of that type of like ARP packets, if they're not present, then SILICA-U isn't gonna be able to do the replay attack, for example. So it does have a waiting period where it'll wait for those things. In the newest version now, there's an indefinite waiting where you just click the button, start the attack, and SILICA-U will wait indefinitely for whatever element it needs to proceed into the attack. So literally. With the WPA attack, for example, if you need to capture a handshake, you can only capture that four-way handshake at the very beginning when they're authenticating to the access point. So if there are no clients, you're not going to succeed at a WPA attack because you can't capture that handshake. So the idea is you click the start button, you can walk away, do something else, even if it takes a couple hours for a client to finally connect, SILICA-U will be there and waiting for that authentication to happen and grab the handshake. And then it saves it off into a serialized file where it'll attempt to crack the key right then and there, but there's also the option of loading it into the offline cracker. So you can use your own custom word lists and things like that if you happen to know information about, maybe a policy that the company has for generating PSKs. So the idea is basically just to take all the hard work out of the hands of the penetration tester and do it for them. So that's why we have the luxury of just having these big buttons that you click, and that's it. We do the rest.
So it does enumeration, finds the APs that are out there, does also find the clients that are in your area at the same time?
Yeah, the Wi-Fi monitor window in what was the advanced mode is now the only mode, in that you have the ability to right-click on an access point and choose Find Associated Clients, and it will scan for associated clients that are in the area. That's something that you choose selectively if you're targeting a particular network. Typically what I'll do is do a little bit of reconnaissance first on the network, and typically my first step is to find associated clients to see how active that actual network is, if there are any associated clients, if there's traffic being passed back and forth. If it's a WPA network and I run the find associated clients and I see that there's no clients, then I know that I'm going to be waiting for a little while. If I run that and see that there are a couple clients, then I know that I might be getting a handshake here pretty quick.
And then after you go through the process, and if you do crack the encryption, what's next? What does the tool do to get past? Now, once you have encrypted access to the network, how does it continue?
Once you actually cracked a key, the GUI will update with that particular key, and then SILICA-U, when you right-click on that network, once you have a key, you can either load in a key manually if you've already cracked the key, or let SILICA-U crack it. It'll update the GUI. Once it knows that it has a key, when you right-click on that particular access point, that particular network, you have options on what you can do further. One of those options is to do a network probe. What that does is basically scans the network for hosts that are on the network and does a very light vulnerability and enumeration scan. It's not going to, in this particular mode, it's not going to try to exploit anything. It just tries to get an idea of what machines are out there, what types of operating systems, those kind of things. And if they are potentially vulnerable to an exploit. Another option is to actually attack these machines. This is kind of an interesting. This will penetrate into the box. If there's a vulnerable machine on the network, it'll scan and attempt to actually break into the machine. And there's post-exploitation actions that can be taken. For example, it can grab a screenshot of the victim desktop. It can grab passwords off of the machine. It can also grab other wireless keys. If this particular machine has connected to other access points, other networks, these are stored locally on the machine, and SILICA-U will go into that protected store, decrypt those keys, and send them to you in plain text. So even if if they've connected to a WPA network with a very complicated PSK, it will give it to you in plain text anyway. So it doesn't matter how strong the actual key is, and that's an interesting post-exploitation module. And these exploit modules are the Canvas. Immunity also has a product called Canvas. It's an automated attack framework for penetration testers as well. SILICA-U is built on top of that engine, and so all the latest Canvas exploits that are appropriate for SILICA-U go into SILICA-U in the releases, and you can use those at your disposal. There's also we also use the client side exploitation. SILICA-U has man-in-the-middle attacks. That's another option that you can choose once you have the key, or if it's an open network. Man-in-the-middle does exactly as it says. It'll set itself up in the middle, and one of the options that you have is to either just collect traffic that's going in between SILICA-U and the destination, or the client and the destination, or it can rewrite HTTP requests to send to a embedded web server inside SILICA-U and issue client-side exploits to the client. So if you request HTTP somesite.com, then we will deliver an iframe, a page, basically redirect you to SILICA-U and have an exploit waiting. For example, one that's quite effective is the Java to serialize exploit, Java for the Java bug. We'll send you there if the user has Java, for example, then a vulnerable version, then SILICA-U will break in and do those post-exploitation actions. So if maybe we couldn't get in remotely with remote bugs, maybe they're all patched up, but the Java version is vulnerable, which is common, then we can also get access to the machine through man-in-the-middle attacks. Client side.
A lot of what you're talking about, other people I've talked with go, well, just get a copy of Backtrack and run Metasploit and you're all done. How does Immunity as a company say, SILICA-U is the same thing but different, and how are you different?
Well, this is, first of all, as far as this is all automated. The user has only had to check a checkbox inside the preferences menu, say I would like to perform client-side exploitation if the man-in-the-middle attack is chosen. Actual knowledge of penetration is not necessarily necessary to use this tool, because the exploitation happens from Canvas does it all. All the hard work is involved. Also, you'll find that Canvas being a commercial product, we have the time and resources. We have some of the best exploit writers in the industry, and the quality of the actual exploits, you're getting a quality exploit inside Canvas. And some of the public exploits, they might work, but they might work in only one particular situation. We try to make the exploits as reliable as possible, but you might not find that reliability in, you say, public exploits that were written, fairly quickly.
How does one of your customers stay updated with what those new exploits are?
SILICA-U has a release. We try to do like a monthly release, but there's an update button inside SILICA-U when there's a new release. You just click the update button and it'll download the latest version, and the latest version has all the latest exploits included. So if there are new features, it's as easy as just clicking the update button.
And so it looks like from the screen, it's obviously based on Linux, and all you have to do is, and then I'm kind of kicking in a little bit for you here, is all I did was put the PCMCI card in the slot and put the USB in the USB drive, boot, hit the F12 to say boot off USB, and Silica was running. So it doesn't feel like I'm on a Linux box. Yeah,
I mean, and SILICA-U will pop up as soon as the operating system is booted. You can use any hardware. We've got SILICA-U running on laptops that are fairly old, and it still works just fine. So basically, you bring your own laptop, and as long as it supports USB and PCMCIA, or if you have a PCI Express slot, it comes with an adapter as well. And so it's up and running as soon as you just got to boot off of it, and that's it. We are working on also supplying or porting to a USB wireless device, wireless adapter. So here in the next little while, you'll be able to just have any device that supports USB and run Silica off of that as well. So we can get rid of the dependency on PCMCIA or PCI Express slots. So some of the fans of Silica, back when it was on an embedded device, they want to use something like a netbook or something like that. It's a little bit smaller. It might not have a PCMCIA slot. They'll still be able to run Silica-U. So you'll have your choice.
And where can someone buy Silica-U?
ImmunityInc.com. There's a little bit more information about Silica-U on the website. If you are curious about pricing, things like that, you can contact admin@immunityinc.com or sales@immunityinc.com, and they can get you a copy.
And you also have some videos, some demonstration videos, and we'll put the links to those in the show notes. So if anyone wants to see this running live, well, not exactly live, it's kind of time compressed because some of the things take a while. You can just link and follow on there. And Mark, you're hosting those, aren't you?
Yeah, it's I do the demos. They are actually live WebEx demos that we do every now and then. Just a real quick 15-20 minute lightning demo of a particular feature, and we also record those so that people can get them on the website. So if you go to immunityinc.com, there's I believe it's under resources and saved WebEx demos. You'll see a list of Silica-U WebEx demos. There's also Canvas demos as well. The demos that are currently up are demonstrating the wireless key retrieval, WEP, WPA, and LEAP credentials. There's also one of the newer features of Silica-U is session hijacking. There's a video on there showing how basically just with right-clicking, you can hijack the session of popular web applications, unencrypted web sessions. In the video, we demonstrate using Silica-U to hijack a Facebook and a Twitter session. Without knowing the password, you just basically are listening for the cookies, the wireless cookies, and you see them on the screen. You see them under Facebook. You see them under the IP of the client. You just right-click and choose replay this session, and you'll jump right into it. It's as easy as that. You basically just wait and right-click. So that's the other video, the WebEx demo that is available.
Well, you made it very simple to do wireless penetration testing, and it's very easy. You just click and wait and let it run its course, running through all the Canvas exploits. What's the end result? What are the reports that you can get out of the system?
The different modules have different reports. The most basic report is when you just start it up and you try to you attempt to do a key recovery for a network. If you've recovered the key, or if you don't recover the key, a report is generated letting you know the outcome of that particular action. Also, there's reports when you do, for example, earlier I was talking about the attacks using the Canvas exploitation modules. And then there's the post-exploitation actions like the screenshots and passwords, things like that. All of those will end up in a report. In the reports directory, it's a basic HTML file that is generated. If it was successful at compromising the machine, then and a screenshot was generated and passwords were gathered, all of this shows up in the actual report, as well as the actual module that successfully compromised the machine. So, for example, if you did a man-in-the-middle attack and you were able to gain access to the machine using the Java to serialize module, it would let you know how you got onto the box, and then basically show you proof of being there with the passwords and screenshots and things like that. So that's all saved in the reports directory. There's a link on the desktop that takes you there.
Well, one final question, but it's a two-part question. The first part would be, when you go on to do a wireless penetration engagement, about how long does it take on your normal engagement? And then the second is, what kind of reactions do you get when you show these reports to your clients?
Well, the first part, as far as how long it takes, because there's so many variables involved in wireless attacks, sometimes I've had it be as quick as it was in the demo, just a couple of minutes, because everything just lined up correctly. I was close enough to the clients, close enough to the access point, good signal, nothing really getting in my way. And literally, it took me, a total of about 6 minutes to from start to finish to crack a WEP key. And then there was another situation where WPA network. Obviously WPA network, because that particular type is a brute force. We supply a word list. When you're cracking the four-way handshake, we supply a word list, and if it's in that word list, sometimes you get lucky and it's you recover the key pretty quick, and then other times, in one particular example, there was a penetration test that I was doing where I was able to. It was a wireless assessment, but I was also doing I was also testing on the wired LAN, and I had gained access to a machine, and I found a document that describes policy and policy on creating wireless keys. So I just created a quick script to generate words based on that policy, and use that as the word list instead of the supplied SILICA-U word list, and that ended up proving successful. The word was in the generated list, so basically a little bit of information helped me speed that one up a little bit, but the WPA cracking can take a while, so it's kind of hard to give you an average. We are working on a platform, on a particular method of distributing WPA keys. We're actually working on a couple different versions, a couple different ways to speed up WPA cracking, and you'll actually see that in some upcoming releases of SILICA-U. And I think you're going to find that cracking WPA is going to be sped up exponentially because of how we're actually going to end up doing it. So, maybe when that's we can do another podcast and I can talk about how fast it is. But on a typical pen test, you're basically at the mercy of how strong the key is.
Now, just to reconfirm, are you talking about WPA PSK keys, or could we also be talking about 802.1x out to radius?
We're talking about PSK keys.
Okay.
We also support LEAP. We also crack LEAP. We grab the during the authentication. We grab that and we do a brute force against that as well. But as of now, we don't support any attacks against PEEP, just LEAP. Okay.
And then the second part of that was, what kind of reactions do you see with your clients?
Well, people love it. If you can place someone in front of a GUI and just have a big button that says, do what I need you to do, then and I think some of the some of the more popular features like the session hijacking and things like that. I've even had, when I'm doing demonstrations, things like that. I was at Black Hat, this last Black Hat in Vegas, and I demonstrated SILICA-U, and I got people smiling. I got people clapping. There is a fun element to using SILICA-U, but of course it's incredibly useful. But there's something about it that makes it actually kind of fun to use. But it makes their job easier as well. So the reactions are that they see this as an incredibly valuable resource in their wireless toolkit when they're doing their penetration tests. But being able to show in the different creative ways that we can show the security of not only the wireless network but of the physical network as well. When you're able to show someone that you've entered into a wireless, or a web application session, for example, that hits home pretty hard. When you're trying to show the people that make all the decisions. So it's a good way to get that kind of stuff done.
Get some attention that way.
It gets some attention, yeah.
Well, anything else you'd like to add about Immunity or Canvas or SILICA-U?
Again, immunityinc.com is the website. The demos that are online, if anyone would like a personal WebEx demo, we can arrange that. If you want to contact Mark at immunityinc.com or admin at immunityinc.com, we can set up demonstrations so you can actually see the tool live in use. And there's also a forum where we've started. There's a couple of frequently asked questions and things like that. People are free to ask questions, post things at the forum, and generally learn a little bit more about the tool. But we're available if you want to get in contact with us.
Well, thanks for your time today, Mark. Enjoy your sunny beach there.
Yeah,
nice place to live. A little better than your stint in Russia, huh?
Yeah, it is a bonus that we are next to the ocean. It's also a good place. We have training classes here at Immunity Inc. And if not for the amazing training classes, it's a good opportunity to come to the beach.
Did have an excuse there. So, well, thanks again for your time, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mark, for your time. I'm glad we were able to bring you this episode today on wireless penetration testing. Hope you learned something, and if you're interested, go out and check out Immunity Inc.'s product called SILICA-U. I have a copy that I've been running here for years. The first copy I had ran on a Nokia 8800, and I've upgraded and moved on to the SILICA-U version. It works great. It's the simplest and easiest Linux penetration testing I've ever had to do. Mark can probably attest to the fact that I'm not a CLI guy. I'm a GUI guy, and I kept asking him to make it easier, make it easier. I hated typing all those little commands in to turn on and off the NICs. Obviously, he's got those all built in, and SILICA-U is a dream and a joy to run. So thanks again to Mark for his time, and for you, the listener, who are able to listen in and give us feedback and comments. So if you have any feedback, you can reach us at feedback@wirelesslandprofessionals.com, and feel free to leave any comments in the show notes and anything you're looking forward to. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week.
Wireless LAN Weekly, a podcast focused on the needs of wireless LAN professionals. We look forward to your feedback. Please leave your comments at the bottom of the show notes, or email feedback on the show can be sent to feedback@wirelesslandprofessionals.com. If you'd like to leave a voicemail feedback, just call 24/7 and leave a message at 1-801-481-9018. Until next time, this has been another production of wirelesslandprofessionals.com, a place to educate, inform, entertain, and inspire.